Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thank you so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am going to be talking about the 10 highest rated Canadian books I've read according to Goodreads. I've done a few of these videos where I look at my Goodreads and I see if I agree or disagree with ratings. So for these books to make it to the list, I only include them if they have at least 1,000 ratings. There's a reason for that. It's because sometimes a book can have 5, 10, 15, 25 ratings and it can be skewed. You know, it can be a 5-star read because it's the author's family and friends who are giving the book all 5 stars, which is lovely and very supportive. But maybe the book deserves all 5 stars, but having enough ratings really helps to make it, I would say, a little bit more fair. So there are a few interesting things about this list, which I will share afterwards. And I will also say that the #1 spot surprised me. So I am going to count down the top 10 Canadian books on my shelves. That's the other thing, they have to be on my shelves, that I've read according to Goodreads. And beginning at number 10 with All Our Relations by Tanya Talaga. This book has 2,628 ratings and the average rating is 4.45. I totally agree. I gave this book 4 stars. I will read anything by Tanya Talaga. She is an Anishinaabe Canadian journalist and writer. And in these essays, which were part of the Massey lecture series that we have here in Canada, Tanya Talaga explores the rise of youth suicide in Indigenous communities in Canada and how there are similarities in other Indigenous communities in other colonized nations, which is very interesting. So she shows the impact that colonization has had with regard to health, employment, education, and how it has led to a mental health crisis. So for people who are, wanting to learn more about these topics or do some work towards truth and reconciliation, I have recommended this book many, many times. I think it's a really good starting point. Okay, at number 9, and I didn't grab this book, it's 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good. This is a debut book that skyrocketed. It has 43,944 ratings with an average of 4.47. This is a fictional story about 5 Indigenous people after they leave residential schools and they try to continue living their lives in East Vancouver. All 5 of them take different paths. And the genius in this story is that it shows what it was like for people to leave residential schools with no support, no skills, and try to build a life for themselves. It shows how intergenerational trauma is passed on and just how they become a support system for each other. That's really well done in this book. So this book really pulls at the heartstrings. This was a 5-star read for me. So I agree with Goodreads. Book number 8 was also a 5-star read for me, and it is The Book of Negroes by Lawrence Hill. It has 90,015 ratings with an average rating of 4.47. This book is also published under the title Someone Knows My Name. It's under that title in several other countries. But I'm glad that in Canada it is The Book of Negroes because it is named after an actual book that was called The Book of Negroes, where people registered their names. And so, yeah, I think keeping that title is important. What makes this book for me was the main character, Aminata, who is abducted from her West African village. That happens at the very beginning of the story. She's quite young. And Aminata is so real to me. I feel like I know her. She is sent to South Carolina as a slave, but she eventually finds her way to freedom, and she goes back to Africa, and it's just an excellent, excellent story. Book number 7 is Call Me Indian by Fred Sasakamoose. This has 2,885 ratings with an average of 4.47. I also gave this book 5 stars. It is the memoir of Fred Sasakamoose, who was the first Indigenous player in the NHL. So that part of his story is incredible. He was a residential school survivor. He's an incredible, obviously, hockey player. But I think maybe more importantly is his story after he left the NHL, because he left after only like 12 games. And I have said a number of times that this is one of the best memoirs that I've ever read. This is definitely worth the read. Okay, coming in at number 6 is another memoir. And another book that I rated 5 stars. So this is From the Ashes by Jessie Thistle. This has 33,204 ratings with an average of 4.49 stars. Again, this is an excellent memoir that was everywhere when it was first published. Everyone was talking about this book and Jessie. And it deserved, I think, the attention that it received. Jessie is a Métis Cree man from Saskatchewan. And the book is told in vignettes, almost like memories or flashbacks of Jessie's life. And he shares very honestly how he became homeless, his struggles with addiction, and just how he overcame so much. He was very resourceful, and the book offers hope, which I really liked. So people who have, read the book and were following kind of Jessie's story, I think also fell in love with Jessie's wife, Lucy, and their love story, and now their beautiful daughter, Rose. So this is, it's kind of kept going. They have been very generous in letting people into their story. So it's another memoir that I think everyone should read. So I guess I still agree with Goodreads on this. So book number 5, sticking with memoirs, next is In My Own Moccasins by Helen Knott. This has 3,099 ratings on Goodreads, and the average rating is 4.52. I just read this this year, a couple of months ago, and I believe I gave it like a 4 or 4.5 stars. Helen Knott lives in my hometown in northern British Columbia, and she is an Indigenous woman, and in this memoir, she talks about her experiences with addiction, intergenerational trauma, and sexual violence. So some of these books, all of these books so far, they're difficult books. And like Jessie's memoir, this one offers hope, and it talks about reclaiming traditional ceremony, the power of love within family, and especially within women. Yeah, within women in particular. Number 4, I didn't grab it either. One Drum by Richard Wagamese. This has 1,116 ratings with an average of 4.52. You all know I love Richard Wagamese. He is one of my faves. So you won't be surprised that I gave this 5 stars. And I've actually been talking about this book a little recently because of another publication of his. But this is the book that Richard Wagamese was working on when he died in 2017. He was using the 7 grandfather teachings to talk about ceremony and to heal communities and the planet. And he only finished 3, I think it was 3 of the teachings. And I am so grateful that they still chose to publish it even though it wasn't finished, because this is a beautiful book. It's a real gift. And even though all of the teachings, would have been amazing, this is a really, really good start. Okay, number 3 is an author that we've already seen on this list. This is Seven Fallen Feathers by Tanya Talaga. This has 13,972 ratings with an average of 4.52 stars. As I said earlier, I would read anything that Tanya Talaga writes. And I think for anyone who hasn't read anything by her, this is a really good starting point. And I say that, and when I looked at my rating for it, I gave it 4 stars, and I was kind of surprised that it wasn't 5. I don't remember why it wasn't 5, but either way, this is an excellent, excellent book. This tells the stories of 7 Indigenous high school students who died in Thunder Bay, Ontario, from 2000 to 2011. And all of them were away from their families because in order for them to get an education, they had to go into the city. And all of them died mysteriously. So an inquest was finally done several years later, and it had 145 recommendations, which have, I'm going to say, largely gone ignored. And young people are still dying in Thunder Bay. This is not solved in any way. I'm going to leave it there because I can talk a long time about this. But this is a book that I think, again, everyone should read. So Goodreads is doing pretty good so far. Oh, at number 2, so we are sticking with the racism and prejudice theme. And I didn't grab this book either, but it's Policing Black Lives by Robyn Maynard. This has 2,026 ratings with an average of 4.56. I believe I gave this 4 stars as well. This book is really like a call to action and an eye-opener for Canadians especially. Much like some of the other books on the list, like might be true for several of them. This book looks back at 400 years of Black lives, from slavery to the present. And it looks at how Canada, which is supposed to be a multicultural country, has structures of racial domination within prisons, education, and many other institutions. So this book came at a very important time, and it's definitely worth a read if you get a chance. Okay. Finally, the highest rated Canadian book that I've read, according to Goodreads, is a bit of a surprise. As I said, I'm still surprised. It's 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph. This has 9,515 ratings and an average of 4.57 stars. I also gave this book 4 stars. This is a surprise to me because this is a dry book. It can be like reading a textbook, a dry textbook. Now, I think it's a very, very important book. It's especially important for truth and reconciliation work. So, I have no problem with it being number 1. And in many ways, it makes me very happy that other people, I guess, also see that we need to know what we are talking about when we are talking about the Indian Act, especially since it is still in effect today, sadly. So since 1876, this document has had a major impact on Indigenous peoples. It's been changed over time, but not by much. And I really think that it's important for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people to know about it and to know what it says. So, those are the highest rated Canadian books that I've read according to Goodreads. Some interesting observations as I was looking over the list, that first of all, 8 out of 10 are Indigenous authors. 2 out of 10 are Black authors. And 8 out of 10 are non-fiction books. And I thought that in some ways, this was kind of comparable to when Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads, when we did the 67 best CanLit books of the 21st century. There has been some obvious shifts in Canadian literature and what Canadians are reading. A lot of these books made that list as well. What we're reading, what we're finding important, I think that that's all there. I think if this list was done 10 years ago, certainly 20 or 30 years ago, it would look completely different. And I think that both this list of 10 books and the 67 Can Lit books are, evidence of the signs of the times in Canada. And that is not a bad thing at all. So let me know if you have read any of these. Are you surprised by any of the books that made the list? I will be doing the top 10 Canadian books on my TBR, according to Goodreads, soon, hopefully next week, I'm thinking. So we will see how that list, differs or compares anyway. I look forward to chatting with you all in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.